Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Dennis Stockman, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Corporal Alan Stocks. We warmly welcome the family of Private Leo Clive John McCosker, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and family. If able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us for in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Leo Clive John McCosker. Leo McCosker was born on the 6th of June 1914, the eldest son of Clive and Catherine McCosker of Inverell, New South Wales. McCosker worked as a farmhand around Inverell and in June 1937 married Lucy Palmer. He enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in Tamworth on the 12th of July 1940 and eventually joined the 2nd 18th Battalion. He trained at Ingleburn and Bathurst and in February 1941 sailed from Sydney to Singapore aboard the ship the Queen Mary. Soon after arriving in Singapore, McCosker and the 2nd 18th Battalion transferred north to the Malay Peninsula to continue training and to acclimatise to the hot and humid tropical conditions. The battalion was stationed at various bases across Malaya and by September 1941 were on the east coast of the peninsula at Mersing. At the Mersing base, McCosker and his unit established extensive defences in preparation for a Japanese attack, and it was while they were at this base that Japan officially declared war. The Australians based at Mersing did not come under immediate attack, but were a likely target for aggression due to their closeness to Singapore. On the 17th of January, the 2nd 18th Battalion withdrew from Mersing to Jamalawang, further to the south. The withdrawal from well-fortified Mersing was forced upon the unit by the threats to their flanks posed by Japanese attacks on the west of the Malay Peninsula. In the early hours of the 27th of January 1942, McCosker and the 2nd 18th Battalion conducted a successful ambush of advancing Japanese forces at Nithsdale Estate. Despite the success, the engagement was not decisive and the battalion withdrew further south to Singapore. McCosker and his unit were tasked with defending a section of Singapore's northwest coast when on the 8th of February 1942, the outnumbered and overstretched Australians came under an intense Japanese mortar and artillery barrage. During this 16-hour-long barrage, one company from the battalion reported an average of 55 shells falling per minute on their locality. Australian casualties were relatively light on account of the men's sheltering in well-dug, slit trenches, but all they could do was lie and endure the shelling. The bombardment was followed by a major Japanese landing in which the Australian forces were completely overrun. McCosker was reported as missing after this devastating attack, and he was not heard from again. He was officially declared presumed dead after the war in 1946 and is buried in the Kranji War Cemetery in Singapore. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Leo Clive John McCosker, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his final moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.